Hello friends, welcome back to Cosmopolitan Cornbread. My name is Constance, and today I'm here at my desk, and I thought I would sit down here for a few minutes and share with you our plans. Several years ago, back in 2016, my husband retired from the Army, and we said goodbye to Army life, and we bought our first homestead in Alabama. And when we bought that property, it was a house, a shed, and some land. There was nothing else. There was no infrastructure, no fences, no animal shelters, no gardens, no nothing. And so I got about building things, building, chicken coops and building garden beds and all of these things. And as time went on, there were times where I thought to myself, man, I wish I would have put this over there, or I wish this had been closer to the house, or I wish that would have been further from the house. And then we bought our property here in Arkansas a few years ago, and because of the terrain, there were certain things that had to go certain places. For instance, the garden would need to go where there was the most light, and I would have to take down the least number of trees to make it successful. The chicken coop we put in a convenient location, not too close to the house, but not too far away either. And so what we had here dictated where things would realistically need to go, and it has all worked out great. But here we are, preparing to move to Alabama again. And once again, we are starting off with open land. We will have the house where it sits and the garage and all of that, but where to put everything else? Seeing as this time around we'll have everything to begin with, minus the garden. So keeping in mind how it was when we first started putting things together in the Alabama homestead, the Hartzell homestead, and remembering how I had times where I had wished things had been in other locations, and also considering that, Lord willing, this will be our final homestead. The place where we will not just retire from Army life, but retire. And yes, my husband and I aren't quite there at actual retirement yet, but it's not that far away. We're in our 50s, and with us wanting this to be our final home, we are wanting things to be just right. And I have been doing a lot of planning, a lot of measuring, a lot of layout ideas, and finessing things to be just right. And so I wanted to share with you some of the ways, some of the tools that I have been using to do just that. So the first thing that I did was I went to Google Earth and I zoomed in on our new property, and I took a screenshot of the satellite view so that I could see the layout of the entire property. Then I went to our Hartzell home, our first Alabama homestead, and what I did is I took that Google Earth satellite view and I opened up the measuring tools, and then I looked at everything that we had there, and I said, all right, how big was the original in-ground garden that I built? How much was that space? That was a good space. I measured how big was the area where I had the raised bed garden and the orchard area and all of that. But then I also measured all of the areas for the animals. And you may hear some noise in the background during this video. This house is getting ready for the market, and so there's projects being worked on, and projects make noise sometimes. But after I measured out the garden areas, I also measured out all of the animal enclosures. How much space did the goats have? How much space did the bucks have? How much space did Sophie and Amos have when we gave them the most space they ever had? We moved their fence around from time to time, and not every area that we gave them was the same size. And so I went by what was the most space that we gave them, because I really would like to try and get it to be about that big. And same for all of the other animals. as well as the chickens when we kept them fenced in, because when we move to our next homestead, I'm not going to let the chickens free roam again and go wherever they want to, because honestly, I don't want chicken poop on my front porch or on my deck or anything like that. And so we will once again keep the chickens contained to a chicken yard. So I went through the satellite view, but I went through the historical view, and I went back to a time frame where we had the chickens fenced in, and I measured how big was that fenced area, because it was a good area for them. They didn't really need anything bigger than what we had given them. It was perfect. And so I measured that, and I wrote down all of the square footage or square acreage of every one of these different spaces. And then I went to the new homestead property, and I went to that view, and I pulled up those measuring tools once again, and then I looked at the layout of the land. And one of the great things about this measuring tool that is on there is when you're measuring a distance from point A to point B, you can also check the little box and it'll show you elevation changes. So even though we weren't familiar with the property yet, we had not yet actually set foot on it, I knew what areas of the property were kind of hilly and what was more level and what had a gentle slope. And so because of that, I was able to determine exactly where I want the garden to go. The garden is going to go in the most level area possible. And interestingly enough, when I looked back on the satellite history, I realized the spot that I was planning on putting the garden was also once a very large garden many years ago. And so that is obviously a great place to put the garden. And so once I had all of the measurements and all of that, and I took the screenshot of the new property, I opened up that image in my editor and I took away most of the colors so that it was very faded and you couldn't see a whole lot of the color, but it made it light enough that I could then draw out the diagram of all the different things. I was able to measure out exactly where the chickens are going to go. I was able to measure out all of the enclosures, all of the fenced in pasture areas for the different animals. I was able to say, okay, from the house, it's going to be this many feet away before all of the fencing begins. And I was also able to plan out maybe some future orchard type areas and like rows of fruit trees and things like that. And then of course where the garden will go, where the dog's fence will go, because the dogs need a fenced in backyard. We are not going to let them just run around loose because we just don't do that with our dogs. We have a dedicated yard for the dogs to run around in. So once I had all of the different locations of where the things were going to go, I started thinking about animal structures. You know, as my husband and I are getting older, currently when I go get hay, we have to take it to the area and then we've got to haul it into where it's being stored. And honestly, as we get older, I've got a bad neck. My husband has a bad shoulder. He's also got a bad neck from being slammed against the side of an airplane when he was a towed jumper back at Fort Bragg. And so, you know, we're getting older. The aches and pains become more pronounced, and frankly, we're not physically able to do all of the things that we used to be able to do. And that progression will continue as we age. And so, keeping all of those things in mind, I'm looking at the long-term accessibility for everything that's going to be here, including how to build the animal structures. So I want to make sure that the animal structures have storage for the food for each of the animals in their location so that we don't have to carry it from point A to point B or anything like that. Because currently we keep all of the feed up in our sheds up here in the lean-to next to the tractor with tractor parks. And we have to carry the feed to all the different animals, except for Sophie and Amos, who we have used the horse trailer as their feed shelter storage. We have the hay bales in there, we have the feed cans in there and all of that. But I want to make sure that the animal structures that get built whether it's coops or goat shelters, Sophie and Amos's shelter, and all of these things. I want to make sure that there's space for the feed cans, but additionally, I want to make sure that when we need to haul bales of hay, that we can actually use the tractor to carry all of the hay where it needs to go and place it where it needs to go. And that means I want to make sure that there is some sort of door that provides access for the tractor, for the bucket, to place the bales of hay where they will be stored. So I'm thinking about all of these things with the long term, like I said, accessibility for us as we age, because we're not getting any younger, and hopefully, Lord willing, this is the house and the homestead that we will grow old in, our final homestead. And so I've been doing these things and planning all of these for weeks now, ever since we knew the house had passed inspection with flying colors, because we knew then going forward, this is where we would be moving. And so I have taken this time in the meantime to plan it all out ahead of time and not have things down the road where I think, man, I wish we would have put this over here or this over there, or I wish we hadn't put the fencing here and things like that. This is what I have been doing, working out the details of planning the future homestead. And I just wanted to share it with y'all because, you know, not everybody knows about the tools that are available through Google Earth, and it's earth.google.com is how you get there. There's a program version that you can download. I think you can still download it. I've had it on my computer for years. You could download it for free, but all of the same tools are available on the website, and again, at no cost. You can get a paid version, and it'll like save projects and things like that if you want to go that route. But if you're just wanting to plan where to put things, to measure out, I wonder how much square footage this space over here is. You can just go on there, bring up the satellite view of your home, and just click on the little ruler tool, and you can measure it and know exactly what it is. And again, you can do like point A to point B and click on that elevation. You can see, does this have a slope? Is this level ground? Which way does this go? Are there any dips? You're able to see all of that through these tools. And it's just a great resource when you're planning out a garden, a homestead, or anything like that. So that is it for today, y'all. That is what I wanted to share with you. I hope you found this useful. And if you've ever used those tools, let me know. I'd love to hear what you are working on with it. So I will put a link to that Google Earth tool in the video description down below. With that, God bless, and I'll talk to y'all next time.